Hi guys, this is Umair. I'm back with another JavaScript tutorial. I hope that you have liked my previous tutorials on JavaScript and jQuery. In this tutorial, I'm going to develop an amazing application, this quiz application completely with JavaScript. And I'll be using object-oriented programming. Okay, so if you don't know how to work with object-oriented JavaScript, this is a tutorial that you should see and you should practice. Um, as usual, as you all know that my tutorials are based on small tasks and small projects. So again, this is a small project that I'm going to develop in this tutorial. So you can see that this is the header and this is the question, and these are different options that we need to select out of. Okay, so which one is not an object-oriented programming language? I should say C, which is the style for web pages, and this is the fourth, and Python framework. So at the end there were 5 questions that I added in my array. We can add as much questions as we want in this quiz application. Alright, so at the end it is showing my scores. There were 5 questions. I have correctly answered 4 questions. Alright, so this is the application that I'm going to develop. We have a lot to write, and so let's start. The IDE that I'm using is the WebStorm, which I like really much, and if you want to use any other IDE like Sublime Text or Notepad++ or any full-featured IDE like this, you can use it as well, but I would recommend you to use WebStorm. Alright, so this is the empty project. I'm going to make this interface first from the start. If you want to know that how this interface is made up of, this is a good tutorial that you're gonna learn HTML, CSS and JavaScript, object-oriented programming, 3 main concepts. Alright, so let's start and make a new HTML file. Alright, so it would be index, make a new CSS file, and it would be style. Now I'm going to write some HTML code and the CSS code for making this layout. Alright, so let's start writing our HTML. First we need to set the title to quiz and set the reference. So we have set the reference for our CSS file. Alright, now this is all in the head section. Let's write some HTML inside the body tag. I'm not going to explain these things in HTML. I hope that you already know it. If you don't know, make sure you check out online tutorials or W3 Schools tutorials in order to learn HTML and CSS before watching this tutorial. So let's name it grid. Okay, and in this grid we have an ID for the quiz. Okay, and inside the quiz div we have a head tag. Okay, this is the quiz, and after that we need to add our horizontal line after the title. So I'm going to style it right here, but not in the CSS because I'm not going to use this style anywhere in my HTML. So margin top would be 20 pixels. Now I'm going to add some paragraph tag for the question. Okay, and now the options for the question, I'll name it the buttons. Okay, inside this div I will add buttons and I will give it an ID of button 0. There would be 4 buttons. Okay, and inside this we need to add a span for the text inside those 4 buttons. Okay, so I would name it choice 0. Okay, I will fill the text inside this span tag with the help of JavaScript. I'm not going to enter any text directly inside this HTML tag. I'll copy it and paste it 3 more times and change the IDs from 1 to 3 and choices as well, 1, 2 and 3. Alright, so after this div tag I will add a horizontal line again with a different style, so it would be margin top 50 pixels. Okay, now the footer, this tag is new in HTML5. Okay, so I'll name it a progress, and let's write some default text. I'm going to change this text later on with the JavaScript. So x of y. Alright, let's make it bottom because I want my questions to be a little bit lower than this horizontal line. So let's check it if it what it's showing. Alright, so it is showing this thing because I have not added anything inside here and inside this question tag, so it is showing empty, but the our actual layout is set up. Let's write some CSS now. Alright, after writing CSS I will show you the actual layout after adding some text, default text, which I'll remove later on. Okay, so let's write some CSS. Alright, so let's background color, it would be triple E, a light gray. Okay, again I'm not going to explain this as well. I hope that you already know how to write CSS. Okay, I will set its width to 600, height to 500 pixels, margin to 0 auto. Okay, background color would be white. Alright, I'll set its padding, top 10 pixels, right 50 pixels, down 50 pixels and left 50 pixels. Okay, let's remove the semicolon, and the border radius would be 50 pixels. Okay, its border would be 2 pixels, solid, it would be a little bit dark gray. Okay, let's change it to hash. And the box shadow, okay, 10 pixels, 15 pixels, 5 pixels and the same color. Okay, now let's add some style for our heading for the title, that was quiz. Alright, so that would be grid h1 because it is inside this grid. Okay, so let's change its font family to sans serif. Okay, background color should be 57636E. Okay, that is the dark gray, and let its size to 60 pixels, text align to center, color has to be white, this is the color of our text. Okay, padding 2 pixels, 0 pixels, and the border radius 50 pixels again. Okay, so now let's add some styles for this buttons class and these buttons as well and this progress. Okay, so let's add style for the grid question. It has to be sans serif. Okay, font size would be 30 pixels and color would be 5A6772. Okay, again the dark gray color. Okay, now let's buttons. Its margin should be 30 pixels. Okay, now let's add style for each of these buttons. Okay, so btn0, btn1, btn2 and btn3. It should have a background color. Okay, and it would be a little bit lighter than the background of our header. Okay, so that would be 778897 and its width should be 250 pixels. Font size 20 pixels. Color has to be white. Border 1 pixel solid and its color should be 1D3C6A. Okay, now border radius, that would be 50 pixels, margin 10 pixels, 40 pixels, 10 pixels and 0 pixels, and padding should be 10 pixels, 10 pixels. Alright, now let's go and write the CSS for our progress. Its color should be 2B, 2B and 2B. Okay, a dark gray, and font size should be 18 pixels. So I think that's pretty much it. There are a few things more that we need to write inside the CSS, but that requires our JavaScript. Okay, so now let's see. So you can see that it is now the same layout as it was earlier. Okay, I think I have changed the font style, but it's okay, it's working fine. There is no text inside it. It's okay because we haven't added any question right now. These are just the buttons. But one thing we need to add here again, there is no hover. If we hover our cursor on it, its color is not getting changed. So we need to add our CSS to change its color. Okay, now let's go and write some CSS for it. Okay, so button 0, let's copy and paste this. Okay, and add the hover after it. If we hover our cursor on any of these buttons, then what we want to do, we want to change our cursor to pointer. Okay, and change the background color, and it has to be dark gray, and that would be 57636E. Alright, now another thing that we want to do, if you analyze it, that if I click on it, it keeps adding these borders, bluish border. We don't want it to exist there. Now we need to add another thing. Let's copy it and paste it and change hover to focus. Okay, now let's change the outline to 0. Alright, now let's reload it, and you can see that my cursor is getting changed and the background color of the buttons are also getting changed. If I click on it, there is no bluish border around this button. Alright, so now that's pretty much it. We have written our CSS and HTML. Now let's write our models, controllers and application JavaScript files in order to make it work properly and add some questions on it. Alright, so let's go and make some JavaScript files. It would be app. Okay, make a new JavaScript file, and that would be a question, and I think we need another JavaScript file for containing the number of questions and maintaining the scores of our quiz. So let's make a new JavaScript file, and that would be our quiz controller. So we have created these 3 JavaScript files. Now let's start writing code inside this JavaScript file question.js. So what are the different attributes that question should have? If you analyze it, this is a text, the title of the question. It has different options, so the options of these questions and which option is correct. Alright, so we need 3 attributes for one question. Alright, so now let's write our constructor function. Okay, so let's write, it has to be text, choices and answer. So this dot text equals to text, this dot choices equals to choices, and this dot answer equals to the answer. Alright, in JavaScript we make a constructor functions. There are no classes with the keyword class. We just write a function keyword and then this name that you can obviously analyze it or imagine that this is the class, this is the constructor of a class. Alright, and it is receiving these 3 parameters, and we are storing these parameters inside these variables. Alright, so now these are 3 attributes. Now we need to add some functions in order to detect that if the answer was correct or not, if the answer that user clicked on the different buttons, if that was equal to this answer or not. Alright, so for doing this we can also add a function inside this constructor function as well, but this is not a recommended practice. We need to write function that belongs to this question, this constructor function. What we need to do, we need to first select this constructor function and then use a prototype, because we are writing this function outside that constructor function, so we need to use it in this way. So let's write correct answer, okay, and make it equal to a function that is receiving a choice. Alright, this is the parameter that will be containing the value of a user clicked option. Alright, and this is the function. Now we need to return true if this is equals to this answer or not. So let's return choice equals to this dot answer. Alright, so now that's pretty much it for this file, for this question.js file. We are done with our attributes, we are done with the function. I don't think that there is anything left for a question class. Okay, now we need to write some JavaScript code inside this quiz controller. So why I have created this JavaScript file? If you analyze it, then uh, this controller will be containing the scores, all right, and will be containing the number of questions, that how many questions we are having for our application. So let's write some code inside it. First we need to make our constructor function, all right, so let's make it quiz. Okay, the construction names can be different from the file name. Okay, and what these attributes are, this would be score. Okay, and it would contain questions and the question index that we are currently on. Let's change it to equal to sign. So question index, all right, let's make it to 0. Now we need to write few functions. What functions we need? We need to write a function to get the index of current question, and secondly we need a function to check if our quiz has ended or not, all right, and the third function that we are needed is the guess function that will check if the current answer is equal to the answer that is selected by the user. So let's write these three functions. Again, let's select the construction function and use the prototype keyword and the name of function. So get question index. This will return if this dot questions. This is an array, alright, so this dot question index. Alright, let's write another function if the quiz has ended or not. So quiz.prototype is ended. Okay, so let's return if this dot questions dot length equals to this dot question index. Now let's write another function for checking if the answer is correct or not. So let's write quiz prototype and it would be guess function answer. Okay, and let's increment the current index of the question. We want to navigate to a new question even if the user has selected the wrong answer, or even then if it is selected a correct answer. Alright, in both cases we need to increment the current index, so no need to add it under a condition. Okay, so let's increment it. Now let's check if the answer is correct. So this dot get current question index, alright, dot correct answer, that is inside this class. Okay, so correct answer, it would contain the answer that we will send inside this function as a parameter. Okay, so now inside this condition we can increase our score. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it. We have the score attribute, questions attribute, and the question index attribute. It has three functions, that is the get question index, is ended, and the guess. Now we need to write our code in app.js. Alright, and that is the trickiest part of this tutorial. Okay, so now go and write 4 or 5 functions. Alright, first we need to write a function to populate the question. Alright, now before writing this function, let's use these constructor functions to add different questions inside this array. Okay, inside this array. So let's add an array var questions equals to array. Okay, and that will be having questions. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy and paste these questions. You can just stop my video and just write it down. If you wanna add uh, questions by your own, then you can add those as well. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste from my system. So these are the 5 questions. Okay, what it's doing is it is sending 3 parameters to this question class. Okay, this question constructor function. First one is the text, the choices, and the answer from that choice. Okay, this is the question, and this is an array, and this is the answer from that array. So this is what we are done with. Now let's create an object for this quiz controller. Okay, so var quiz equals to new that would be a quiz. All right, with a greater q, and as a constructor we need to send the questions that we have just created. Okay, so let's copy it and paste it right here. All right, and now we need to call the function that we're just gonna write in this file that will populate the questions and check, maintain the scores and check if our question is correct or not. So we are just heading towards that. So let's before writing actually that function, let's make it populate. Okay, now let's write our actual functions for our application. Okay, so let's write function populate. Okay, as we call this function, first we need to check if our quiz has ended or not. If it is ended, then we don't need to go through each question and populate those questions. So let's check if quiz dot is ended. Okay, then what? Then show the scores. So let's write a new function, but in this conditional statement I'm going to call it show scores. Okay, which I will write later on. Okay, let's comment it for now. Okay, else populate that question. Okay, so let's comment show question. Okay, where we want to show this question, we want to show this question to this paragraph with an ID of question. So first we need to select a paragraph with an ID question. Okay, so var element equals to document dot get element by ID, and the ID is question. Okay, now we need to set the inner HTML of this paragraph to the current question index. Okay, so let's element dot inner HTML equals to quiz dot get question index dot text. Okay, so let's see if is the question populating or not. Okay, before proceeding further, let's add the reference to script files. We forgot to add the reference. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste the reference. Let's change it to controller. Okay, so just pause the video and write it as it is. Okay, Now let's run it. So you can see that our question has been populated, the first question. Alright, within this paragraph. Now we need to populate our options, the text inside it. Okay. For populating, show choices. Alright. So inside else condition, we first need to select the choices. Okay. So choices, that would be quiz dot get question index dot choices. Now we need to iterate with the help of loop that how many questions are there and uh, different choices that we want to populate from those questions. Alright, so let's write for loop. Okay, that is 0 choices dot length I plus plus. Okay, and inside here we need to select an element, this element, the span, because we want to add the text inside this span. Okay, so let's element document dot get element by id, and the name would be choice, and the 0 1 2 3 we want to select all of these, so we can use this I variable with this choice. Okay, now we can just set its inner HTML to those choices. Okay, so now let's see if it works or not. The quiz application will not work for now because there are no click events edit right now, but I just want to see if the UI is populated or not with the different choices. Okay, now let's reload it. Okay, so it's working. The question has been populated, the different options for the first question has been populated. Now we need to add some code inside the same JavaScript file for its click event and for navigating it to the next question. Alright, so let's go and write some code inside it. Alright, first let's write show scores function. Okay, because I wrote this function right here, I need to fill it first. So let's add the semicolon here and add a show scores function. Show scores. Let's remove the comment. Now you can see that it has become yellow. That is showing that the function exists somewhere in this file or in any other file. Okay, so now let's first create some HTML elements inside this JavaScript file. We can directly write HTML elements from here, but we can also create HTML elements from JavaScript directly. Alright, so if the quiz has ended, we want to show the header that will be show the result, and under that header we will show the scores. Okay, so let's write var game over HTML. Okay, and create a h1 tag, and that would be a result h1. Okay, so header has been created. Now let's add our scores within same variable. Okay, so let's write game over plus equals, this will concatenate. Okay, so let's add an id to score. Alright, and inside this h2 tag we need to write your scores quiz dot score, and let's concatenate it with the ending h2 tag. Okay, let's add the semicolon. Let's change its spelling. Okay. So now let's select an element with the quiz. Alright, we want to replace all these elements with these two elements. Sorry. Okay. So let's select that quiz element, document dot get element by ID, and select that quiz element. Okay, and set its inner HTML to gain our HTML. Okay, so that's pretty much for this function. We are not going to see it right now because we can't navigate to next question, sorry. So let's add few more functions for making our app work fine. Okay, so from here we are gonna call a function called guess that will detect if the user clicked on a correct answer or not. If the user clicked on a correct answer or even a wrong answer, then we should navigate to our next question. Alright, so let's call that first and then we're gonna write it. So button, and it will be concatenated with the I, and choices array. Okay, now let's write that function guess. Okay, let's make it 2s. Now you can see it has become yellow because function exists now. So let's select that ID. It should select two parameters as well, ID and guess. Okay, so let's select document dot get element by ID and the ID. Okay, and the button dot on click, and if a user clicked on any of these options, then we want to call the guess function inside our controller. Okay, so let's use the object and the function, and we want to send a guess that we have just sent with the parameter. Okay, now once this is set, we want to call this function again. Alright, to check if it is ended or not. If it's not ended, then show the next question. Okay, so populate. Alright, now let's check if it works or not. Okay, so now let's reload it. You can see that we have a nice interface. Now let's click on the correct answer. Which one is not an object-oriented programming language? We have a C language, so let's click on it. So you can see that it is working pretty fine. We have the next question: which language is used for styling web pages? Okay, so this is the CSS. There are 4 main components, and which language is used for web apps? All these languages. MVC is a framework. Okay, so you can see that it's not working. Alright, the reason is because we are not checking the progress for our quiz. You can see that at the bottom it is not getting changed for now. We need to write a new function as well that will change this text and will navigate to our end user interface. Okay, so now let's go and come in here. Okay, let's say we have a function called show progress. Okay, and we want to call this from here. Okay, show progress. Alright, now inside this function what we want to do, we want to change the footer showing that this is question 1 of 5, question 2 of 5, and at the end we would show the result with the scores that we earned. Okay, so let's first add a variable that will say current question number. Okay, that would be quiz question index plus 1. Okay, because if the user have clicked on the right or wrong answer, we want to change the index to the next question. Alright, now let's add a new variable to select an element called progress. Okay, document dot get element by id, and we would select progress. Element dot inner html would be equals to question which question. Okay, that would be the current question number, and that will be concatenated with of. Okay, and the total number of questions. Quiz dot questions dot length. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it. Now it should work. If we read to our last question, it should show the progress in the footer, and it should navigate to our result page. Now let's go and reload it. So you can see that the footer has been changed. Now let's click on it. You can see that it has been changed. Question 2 of 5. We need to add a space after 2 as well. Okay, so let's check CSS for all, and it's a framework. It's not working still. We need to check out that where is the problem. So let's start from here. Okay, so if we reach to our last question, then what we want to do, we need to, let's go right here. Okay, let's change it to greater than equal to. Okay, there might be this problem. So let's reload it. So you can see that the scores are shown, but it's not showing properly. Alright guys, so I have found the problem. The problem was right here in this function. First change it back to equals to, and the problem was that this statement was above this if condition. What it was doing is, this if condition is using this function, and it is using this question index. If I write above the if condition, it was just incrementing this index, and that was creating the problem. So right now it is working really well. So let's go and run it. Okay, and check it out. So this is our application. Now just choose different options, so you can see that it's working pretty well. We have the result screen. Another thing that I have just done, I have added a style for this element, alright, to bring it to the center of screen and change its font and color. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to go right here and add this code in your CSS file. It is changing the color, text alignment and font size, and you will get the required result. So guys, this was all for this tutorial. I hope that you have liked it. Make sure you like my tutorial and subscribe to my channel if you want more videos and more projects based tutorials. So thanks for watching this tutorial.